Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Morning.
Morning, y'all.
I'm like over here fiddling. I mean, you know, till you go live, I'm like constantly camera, fiddle, and all of that.
I'm noticing in the image on the screen that my head is like twice as large as yours. Like, what's that about?
I have no idea, honey.
I do have a massive noggin. I can't buy hats. I saw a comedian talk about that one day. He's like, you know, the hat size, like, yeah, I'm up on the
every time we
end of
go,
the range.
because Jim's awesome in a hat, and yeah, every time we go and look at hats, he's just like, they won't carry my size.
Yeah,
and well, like specialty hat stores have.
Yeah.
But
the
big
freakishly
noggin,
large store.
big noggin,
Yeah.
lots of information being held there. So
we'll go with that story.
yeah, that's
like
the
that.
story. It is it's Wednesday.
No, it's Friday.
It's Friday. Sorry.
Yeah.
See,
Let me help
I mean,
you out.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're leaving. We're leaving here in like just a couple hours to catch a flight and go spend Thanksgiving with Jim's family in Oklahoma. And so we'll be, all of you Okies out there will be in the state.
Yeah.
Very soon.
For
and
sure.
He's looking forward to watching some football with his dad tomorrow and starting to enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday.
Right.
So
there'll be cooking involved and all the traditional family stuff. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah. Any announcements?
Just kind of concluding that we had our V8 Plus meeting yesterday, and then I still haven't sent out the invitation for everyone, but I'm making seats available for that Monday night session. We've got our Group 3 meeting, and our members have agreed to let other dealers set in who are contemplating V8, just kind of want to see what it's all about. So we'll basically be running through data, which kind of on the heels of our conversation today, we're talking about data integrity. And so they'll get a chance to kind of see how we present data in V8. So you can get registered for that. We'll get the information over.
Yeah. And I think when we've been talking about how we're going to do this, that it'll probably be like a BHPH Nation TV event. But
this one on Monday,
the one on Monday, but we're not quite sure if it's going to be a registered thing or
I haven't set it for registration.
You've already done
and I
it?
just haven't spent any time together. So
that's
I've got it all set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I just got to get it emailed out to
Why
everybody.
am I here?
You know why. The cute factor. Yeah.
As I was getting ready to get on the flight, I wore comfortable clothes, but I took a glance at myself in the mirror and I'm like, you look like an Amish woman. All you need is the hat today, because I'm wearing a long black dress, but it's just super comfortable. It's like wearing a blanket when we're flying. So we should get you one.
Yeah.
We could both wear Amish
travel.
dresses. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah. We don't have our best ideas on Friday.
We don't, but I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
Our topic today, Jim and I have been talking about for a couple of days. This has been a theme that has come up before, and it's something that we're very mindful of, and we've brought it up in different ways before. Like, one of them was, who owns your data? And so if any of you out there listening have not listened to that episode, and I believe that was the title, so you can probably search that on YouTube, but who owns your data? And that was a really great conversation, which actually spurred other conversation, and it was brought on because of other conversation on social media. And it was around, when a dealer is moving what spurred it was when dealer is moving DMSs, that there were some DMSs that just do not play nice with the data, and they treat it like they own all of the dealership's data, or they make it super hard to be able to transfer. So that was the first time I think that we really brought up this who owns your data, this idea about data. And there's a lot of other places to go with this, and this is one of the things, one of the streams, avenues that we've been talking about, just a lot recently. And, also coming out of, we had a really big meeting this Wednesday. That's why we weren't here on Wednesday.
Right.
So we did a
pre-recorded.
recording and showed the podcast, but we had a really important meeting
Right.
on Wednesday with actually one of our founding sponsors. And so this is kind of like, it came on the heels of some of that conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of tentacles off of this particular subject. Like you're right, dating back to when we talked about it before. I think that was more in the context of, data has value. Who does it belong to? And then if somebody's holding it, what are they doing with it? Like, are they just using it for profit and they're protecting it? They're not making it really available. And even if they are making it available, I think for today, it's more about how useful is it? So we'll get into those pieces, but it's like, I think for today, it's really about who's going to be the steward or the sheriff of this data, and what are they going to do with it?
Well, and I think when we did this before, we showed a Salesforce. I believe they showed it during Super Bowl or something. That it was around Matthew McConaughey makes like just perfect sense for them, but it was like if data is the new Wild West, then who's the sheriff around here? And what we recognize, and I think that this is where Salesforce was coming at it, was data's actually, I mean, it's kind of a currency as well. And I mean, it's because there's so much there that is rich in value. And that whole conversation we had around who owns it. It's like, well, if they have access to the data, how are they using it?
Right.
Because most of the people that collect data understand what value they have in data.
Right.
And so it's, that was kind of where the conversation started. But today we're going to take a look at it from one of those different avenues.
Yeah. And I've got a few things teed up here where we can begin to talk about. So let's cover this first one. Like, when you talk about data management, like who's going to hold it, who holds the keys to the vault. And right now it's been my observation in our industry that, there's big buckets of data. It's mostly private, big companies, there's just a lot of private data. It's disjointed. It's not really being swept together and sort of aggregated in a way that, and listen, I have reasonable expectations about that. It's not all buckets of data are going to really integrate in a way that's meaningful. Right. But still the point is, are we going to mine this data for the industry's benefit? And if so, who's going to be in charge of that? Like who's going to be?
It's right? The data mining from other, from people that are collecting massive amounts of data. It's like, are they willing to step in? And it's like, how can we better the industry in a whole? And, it's just to me, the biggest question to start with is well, who can be trusted to set the standards? So as we're coming off of this meeting, that was actually a flavor of the conversation that we had about what it is, currently, that there's not an awful lot out there in the industry that is making data available anyway.
Right. And, sometimes it's behind a paywall or whatever, right? So there are things like that to consider. And obviously people need to be compensated for their time and resources and what they built. It's not a question of that. Nobody's suggesting that, should give data away. I'm simply saying that, and by the way, this is not a White Hat Wednesday, but White Hat Way is not just for Wednesdays anymore, y'all. Like
no,
it's kind of White Hat Way is something we need to talk about all the time. And I think for me, as I'm sitting here speaking on behalf of dealers, buy here, pay here dealers, lease here, pay here dealers across the country, I'm recognizing, and it's kind of the way we've talked about it before, is, I recognize from where I sit that the dealer's job is harder than it needs to be. I mean, they don't have enough information. And we see that time and time again through our V8 meetings. When we put new data, comparative data, transparent, validated data in front of them so they can have confidence in what they're looking at. And some of them are going back and making immediate business decisions and changes based on what they see, right? So I think dealers are capable of managing their own ship and kind of deciding what they want to do. But I think our opportunity and responsibility is to collect information and make it available to dealers so that they can make better judgments. I'm not saying every bit of it will be free. You gotta build the thing and you gotta whatever. So, but you make available what you can. And I think,
and obviously without there's a way of being able to share data, because we do it frequently on the podcast, from rich data that we've been collecting since the beginning of the year, since you started V8. And so, I mean, it's
and we're still so small,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you saw the other day, I
Yeah.
put that post out there that our V8 groups currently represent about 14,000 customer contracts and about 170 million in receivables. So that's still small. That's a drop in the bucket across the industry, but we're being able to take that pool and create some really useful, comparative, and transparent information. I mean, people can see the stuff that's coming in. They can understand who's in their group. So, by the way, I stop real quick and say, nobody's suggesting anything that would compromise privacy. We certainly
not
recognize
at
the
all.
privacy of a dealer, privacy of a consumer. And so this is, again, why you need a kind of a sheriff. My title of the thing was Who's the Sheriff? And so who's going to protect the data if you brought it in and people cooperated and there was a data bank, if you will, who would be the sheriff? And I'm simply saying, look, White Hat Way is prepared to be a voice and take a leadership role in that endeavor, in that effort, whatever that's going to look like, to go and build and start to pull that data together. I just know people, we have relationships across the industry, and I feel like in the right environment, there would be a lot of people who would make their data available to contribute to the greater good and the greater effort.
And that to me is the underlying question about it too, is that this is part of are we in business to help dealers? I mean, like, truly help dealers? Are we in business to help dealers only behind a paywall?
Right.
And are we in business to make a buck? I mean, there's like different layers to this. And so, we know that there's so many vendors out there that are out there to help dealers. We know that they're, it's a business. And so there's a buck to be made, because, it's livelihood, it's a living. And we're asking for a step up in understanding that the richness of what is there can really elevate the industry.
Yeah.
Not just dealers. And there are things that, it's not like carte blanche, everything, all of the things that make businesses unique in their understanding of things. That's not at all what we're discussing here.
Right.
It's about what pieces can help the industry raise and improve, because we've got the CFPB and all of that there, and so it's data can help with that as well. It's like, do you really need to do X? Is this really, and is this the best way of being able to conduct business that is profitable for you and helpful, and helps to ensure success of the customer, and those kind of things. I think that's the crux of what kind of data we're talking about.
That's right.
How do we help dealers be better?
Right. And
how do we help dealers help consumers be more successful?
Yeah, and I think part of how that would happen, the other piece of this for me, the next element was whoever's got the data and they want to use that information in the context we're talking about. Are they presenting it transparently? So my definition of transparency here would be, suppose I stand up on a stage in a breakout session and I say to a group of dealers, the average down payment, amongst our dealer groups is $1,874. Well, that's interesting, but like, how many is it? And like what's the market size?
And has it been quantified? Is it
quantified? Can I understand? Like, can I see? And without compromising privacy, I think it's it's something that I challenge everybody to do. I've done it many times on the podcast here, and I continue to do it. We would challenge people to speak about their data in a way that is transparent and more thorough, so that dealers have good information. They understand what they're looking at, and that they can make a judgment, around that information for themselves. Like, they're still going to be the renegades and make different business decisions. But I think the first piece is just having trusted information. And the way you have somebody trust the information is you let them see enough elements of it that they can gain confidence in what they're looking at.
Yeah. And
right?
that's one of the things that happens in the V8 meetings, and that the dealers there know,
Right.
one, that everything has been, or not everything.
Yeah.
There are validation checks.
Mhm.
So that this is valid data. This isn't just your bookkeeper or whatever that's just
Mhm.
coming up with numbers and filling in the blanks.
Sure.
So it's validated, and it's interesting because we've had dealers on that's like, this is the first time I've ever been asked to validate
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
And so we validate the data. And from that, when you have the conversations about here is where the stuff is,
Mhm.
and it's validated, the dealers have that they can look at that and go, okay, this is real
Sure.
data.
Right.
And they can quickly do the measurement. What am I doing?
Right.
And then go, all right, everybody, how is it that you do this?
Right.
And that's where you were talking about how dealers will watch and pivot on a meeting, because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been looking at this the wrong way. And we have dealers in there that have been in the business for a very long time
Mhm.
that still find value and pivot
Oh yeah,
points.
we had one the other
Uh-huh.
night. Yeah, it was just a long time dealer, and he looked at the numbers and thought, "Wow, I'm way different than I thought I was compared to the
Yeah.
rest of the group."
Yeah.
And it's because you don't have enough information to really compare.
Yeah. And
So that's part of it.
so
I
what
mean,
kind of value is there in a dealer being able to just look at, as very transparently that there's collectively, this is an aggregate of a lot of data that we're getting. And this is what we're seeing, yeah.
You're asking me what is the value of that?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, obviously it's tremendous whenever the dealer can see, what maybe the rest of the industry is doing, especially folks who compare, to
Mhm.
them. And obviously that's what a 20 group has done for a long time. We know that 20 groups have high value and excellent ROI for a lot of people.
Mhm.
We also know that that's a pretty low percentage of dealers in the country that participate in a 20 group. So
Well, not only that, but I mean, we have a number of dealers that aren't even members of their state associations.
Right.
And so they don't have access to
True.
the conference data and that kind of stuff. They could get on the website and look at some of the publications, but
Yeah.
that there are a lot of dealers out there that they really are just kind of feeling like they're just an isolated island.
Yeah.
And
And they're renegades, and they're
Mhm.
pretty comfortable most days just marching ahead, based on what they know and what they
It's
can
worked for
glean
'em.
from
Yeah.
Facebook and
Mhm.
whatever. But I think that it works for them. And we have the good fortune in our buy here, pay here space where we've got pretty good margins to work with. So we've got some margin for error,
Mhm.
but it's just still, there's an optimum kind of way to maybe function. And so we just want to put that in front of people. And I'm, as a coach, I've kind of, traditionally I've always been in this place, but I find that especially like in a V8 context in a meeting as a moderator, I'm just trying to draw dealers out, put the information in front of them, let them decide. I know better. It's not my name on their building, so I don't
Mhm.
need to tell them how to do business. I want to
Mhm.
just put the information in front of them and let their fellow dealers talk about it. That's the whole premise of a
Mhm.
peer situation anyway. And I just want to get and collect good information and put it in front of them. So I think, this is what we're trying to do, obviously. And V8 is a subscription, right? People pay for that. So it's really not so much about that, but I just mean that is a white hat product, right? A
Yes.
white hat way product
Yeah.
that we created for the betterment of the industry. And I think if you think about pools of data, people
Uh-huh.
own it privately. Like, how are they using it in a way that can be of benefit to
Well,
the industry?
and that's, yes, a lot of the data that we're collecting is via our clients and V8.
Mhm.
But I mean, how often are we like, here's something interesting that we found, and we're taking it to the air and we're giving it freely for all those that are listening to, like, how can we help elevate your business? How can we help? Because that is what White Hat Way is primarily about, is like, how do we help businesses understand the business and help their customers succeed.
Yeah. And I think that really goes back to, and especially when it comes time for us to present that information, we bring some kind of what would I call it, like aggregated or summarized data from a V8 group or multiple V8 groups, and we bring it to the morning show. Well, those dealers in V8, they paid to be in those in those meetings, right? And so when we bring the data, I'm sensitive to that. I mean, I recognize, and it's one thing to share the numbers. It's another thing to see the numbers on a screen and be able to discuss it with your fellow members and decide what it means. And
well, that's what the peer group is all about.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it still goes back to this idea of trust. Do the dealers trust us? And when they sign up, that we're signing an Appendix W with them, right? That's important. Like everyone that we sign has an Appendix W accompanying it, which means
if you're wondering what Appendix W is, please go to whitehatway.com.
Yeah, you can find it there. You can also find the episode that we did when we introduced Appendix W last year. So you can find that episode when we kicked that off. But yeah, Appendix W is just, it represents something that we're basically stating our intention. It's a non-legal document that accompanies agreements that we sign. It basically says we're stating our intention to operate with integrity and lots of other things, right? To be honorable in what we do. So I think this is really where I'm coming from, is that I'm saying here today that I'm happy for White Hat Way to serve as the interim sheriff, to the extent that we're trusted, and I think we're widely trusted across the dealer, groups. And is there somebody listening who questions our intentions? Perhaps, but for every one of those, there's multiples of people who know that we're really showing up and working to make the dealer's experience better. So we're just always working that way. But I think that's part of it for me, is just kind of being able to demonstrate that we're trying to do some good here, and I think we're in a position to be able to do some good for the industry. And we're just mostly, it's about leading the conversation. It's about leadership and being a trusted steward. And we're not alone in that. We would be bringing others to that conversation. But first thing to do is just have the conversation, talk about it, make sure we all agree that it's an opportunity. I view it more as an opportunity than a problem. But we're behind as an industry, automotive, and now you got AI out there.
Yeah, when you're talking about being disjointed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we are.
And we grabbed the domain whitehatway.ai a long time ago. Why? Because we recognize that it's going to be important. There's a nice opportunity for us to put AI to work on behalf, and sweeping this data pool and all this stuff, put AI to work in a White Hat way on behalf of dealers, and then ultimately consumers will benefit as well. And so this is really what it's about, can we put somebody as a sheriff who can be trusted to go and pull that data together and make sure that it's being done for the benefit of the industry.
And the cool thing is that I've been able to watch is that with V8 and with what we do with the morning show and all of that, is that we are very, 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 very nimble.
Yeah.
We can pivot on a dime if we need to, and be able to get good information out there in such a real-time, timely type of way. And that there's so much value in that, because the industry does change. There are things, lots of factors that come into play, a month to month. And it's we're in a position to be able to really be able to help dealers that are looking daily for ways to, how do I help my business? How do I improve what it is that I'm doing? And it's a very consistent, thing.
Sure.
And I'm super grateful that we have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And, we try to be as transparent as absolutely possible.
Sure.
In all of that.
And then this next part is about, what figures would be useful or meaningful. And I think this is a
I think
part
that
where
changes, but yes.
it does. And I
Uh-huh.
think, but it takes somebody who really understands the moving parts that is the buy here, pay here business,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand the difference in business models and approaches, and to understand some of the software limitations that we have, and all the different pieces. But I think mostly it's about understanding the way most buy here, pay here dealers look at their business and how they judge their business and how they, make decisions
Mm-hmm.
about what's a relevant number to consider. And so I think this is why, whoever's going to be that sheriff, it's going to be important that they have that depth of understanding. And I will just say, look, if the sheriff ends up not being us, we're prepared to contribute our knowledge and understanding. And one other quick
Absolutely.
thing on
Yeah.
this is, to the extent that White Hat Way were to be the steward, let's say we're the chief steward, don't call it a sheriff, whatever, you're just chief steward of the data. Then one thing I can tell you is that if we hold that key to the
Mm-hmm.
vault, then it'll be available to many across the industry, with the set of rules around who gets what, and sensitive to privacy and what have you. But I can just tell you, if we're the ones who hold the keys, it'll be available for the benefit of the industry. I think that's a really important thing to say.
Yeah.
It's because that can that be true? If you think about who that owns data now,
Mm-hmm.
how is it made available? And so kind of what do they really know about what they're presenting?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So as far as knowing what it's like to be inside a dealership and knowing about pricing cars and just on and on and on, all the stuff that is a buy here, pay here operation. And so I just think it's important that people know what's meaningful and what when they sweep the data, they kind of need to know what they're looking for, what's relevant.
As a dealer. And I mean, that's I think one of the really important factors in there is that the eye of importance goes through the filter of a dealer
first. Yeah. This data pool that we're talking about now.
Yeah. So it's like, and you're in a unique position. We're working with different people that are in unique positions as well. More to come on that. Some of the people that are coming in as moderators and helping with the next phase of growth of White Hat Way, dealers,
right?
And dealers that understand the challenges, not just from being a vendor that comes into a dealership, but they know it intimately. They know the challenges, they know the questions, they know, the hardships and the things that a dealer would be experiencing. So
yeah. So I think it's just really about making sure that whoever's kind of the spokesperson for that data, and that's not just actually standing on a stage presenting the numbers or in a virtual meeting. It's also about just whoever's working with a team of analysts to sweep that data and decide what data is relevant and what's not. That, in working with data, that even the statisticians themselves would throw out data that is anomalous, right? Top and bottom and whatever, throw out the stuff that is kind of insignificant or doesn't fit. And then beyond that, you need somebody with experience to be able to know, where numbers can be trusted to line up and where they wouldn't.
Yeah.
We see it in V8.
And, the cool thing is as we're growing the White Hat Way, growing V8, growing those things, is that we're pulling together dealers that are part of this process. It's Jim has been a dealer and experienced that, and a consultant, and all of these things, but pulling more people in so that this becomes, we've always said we're spokespeople for White Hat Way. We're not, we're not White Hat Way. We're spokespeople for White Hat Way, and we're bringing in dealers. It'll be around
after we're gone.
It'll be around well after we're gone.
Yeah.
But we're bringing in dealers that it's like these same type of people. It's like, what kind of things should we be looking at? What kind of things are we struggling with? And that they'll be able to pull in what are the topics that are important.
Sure.
That we can break down.
Yep. I think we covered the pieces that I had in mind, and I'm seeing that we're getting a little bit of internet connectivity questions, so we might want to wrap up before we end up with a technical issue. But
I'm hardwired. That's just you.
Oh. Okay. So they can still talk to you or hear
Yep,
you. Yeah, okay.
exactly.
All right.
I
Fair
mean,
enough. Yeah, I can
um,
shout across the table.
exactly. All right. So, anything closing thoughts before we?
No, just a quick reminder about our V8 Plus. Look for that in the email or some of the Facebook pages, et cetera. We'll put
Yes.
that out so that dealers can hop in there and grab a
Yeah.
ticket for the V8 meeting on Monday night.
Yeah, and for those of you who have been on the fence about joining V8, we have limited seats left in the groups that we already have created. And there are a lot of perks to getting in before the end of the year. One of those perks is that for new members, pricing is going up in January 1.
Right.
We've been working on this for a year now, and so those that have been in are they've had access to a lot of different things that will be different coming next year. So if you're interested or on the fence, please reach out and let us know. We do have limited seats in all the different sizes.
Right.
And because at the end of the year, that changes. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you on Wednesday.